Hello, hello, hello. Setting a reminder for a duck, can you believe it? I cannot believe it, but appreciate it nonetheless. Yo guys, how you doing? Everyone doing alright? I hope so anyway. Let me know if everything's working. I had to like super rush through this, but I think it should. Thought we would start at 8. Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, I said the exact same thing. Last time I forgot. This time I had important business to attend to. Um, so that's that. But yeah, sorry about that. Life life be like that, right? But hope you guys are doing fine nonetheless. Hope I didn't ruin any plans or anything. Is the beef with SC over? Um, I mean, I still don't like him. I still think he's basically like making money off of his followers' backs, and I mean, he's been taking heavy issue with me saying that, which I mean, I don't really give a shit about. So, kind of, I don't know. Like I'm not really like I've said my piece. Um, I don't need to say more. As far as I'm aware, I'm getting DMs from people like telling me that he's shit talking me behind my back and stuff. Um, Fine by me. I don't really care. So yeah, that's that. Before we start, shout out to FTX for sponsoring the show. They have pretty much the best mobile app that you could ask for. So if you want to do anything mobile, it's the place to go. And if you're interested in that, check out the links in the description. They do more than that. It's just, I think that's the biggest draw, so I keep mentioning it. So yeah, check them out if you wanna. They support us. I appreciate their support, and yeah, they've been great to work with. How are you, sir? Good, good. A little bit exhausted, but other than that, very good. Hope you guys are doing all right as well. So yeah, we've seen the S&P struggle a little bit for good reason, right? Uh, a little bit more of COVID fears again, and not only that, but also governments around the world basically taking inflation more seriously, which is going to be interesting. Like crypto people tend to think that like every politician in the world is just gonna watch while like the entire world spirals into hyperinflation. Um, and I mean, so far they've been right, but I could see that change. I'm not really a traditional markets kind of guy, but no one really profits from any of that. So I don't think that's gonna happen. So. And in general, like if it happened, if we really got hyperinflation, I think Bitcoin would take a huge hit as well. As stupid as that sounds, because who the fuck wants to kind of buy Bitcoin when the entire world goes to shit, right? So there's that. But that kind of weakness, right? You can see today and yesterday has been like red on the S&P, and that's spilled over into crypto, right? That said, Bitcoin has actually like it's been weak. It's been underperforming the S&P for a long time. Now it's still showing somewhat strength in on a relative basis, right? Because you can see that it's just down a little. This is the entire bounce, and then we've had like a little bit of red, and then you look at the S&P, and you can see we've had the bounce and completely engulfed that. So there is some strength to be had on Bitcoin. I'm still like Bitcoin wise, I'm not sold. I'm still glad that I got out in the 60K area. I've actually sold a little bit more today into pretty much the move up into resistance. I'm more than happy to just have crypto exposure via other means, right? I think there's time in the cycle where it's pretty nice to hold Bitcoin, and then there's other times where I'd much rather own less of it, and where, in my opinion, the second. So that's kind of what I'm doing anyway. But my ETH position still going strong, so quite happy with that. Let me see what you guys are writing. What's with Fred talking like a Russian oligarch on Monday? That was cool and impressive. I missed it. I was actually doing something on Monday. I was at the gym actually while he was streaming. What happened? But yeah, so yeah, Bitcoin still like in between things, right? This is still the case, right? I've talked about it. I don't think I need to explain like what I'm looking at here to you guys anymore, but just to do it briefly. We have like somewhat of a range in here. You can draw it multiple ways, but like this is roughly the range, right? Range high, range midpoint, range low. We had a range overthrow. I do these all the time, right? You see me like with altcoins, you see me draw this a million times over. Every single stream basically when I talk about altcoins. When they range and look weak, you want to see the shakeout and then moon, right? Like that's the strongest signal that, okay, the bear is just overextended, the bulls are back in control, and you get like a nice up move, right? In this case, it's the exact opposite setup. I'm still not a big fan. I don't really care if it goes up or down like 1, 2, 3K. In general, like this is an overthrow of the range, and given that we've overthrown the range, it makes sense to like even if you're bullish to expect it to go to the midpoint of the range or even to the low point if you're bearish. I don't want to short, so I just sold like the moment like this happened. Basically, I was like, okay, I'm just happy not holding Bitcoin. More than happy to get back in above 60K, right? Let's say we close above 60K. That invalidates the range overthrow kind of theory and opens up the road to what I think would be like a push to 75 to 80K, right? So like something like this. I'd be more than fine to take that kind of leg from 60 to 70, maybe to 80K. Wouldn't take it higher, but I mean, that's like a pretty nice move, right? 25% on Bitcoin. I can't complain about it, even more so given Bitcoin liquidity is pretty damn good. So yeah. But Bitcoin is pretty straightforward and honestly pretty bad looking on the macro. The micro is much better, I think. So what we've basically done, and you can, the range thing that I told you about earlier, this one, you can apply on any time frame, right? And it's not as clean as on the higher time frames, but you kind of did this, right, in here. So we've had a range in between 60K and 55. We failed it to the downside and then shot upwards. That said, as soon, like this is a valid setup, and I still think we could go back to 60K, maybe even to 63, right? Go back into like this resistance up here. And on my actual chart, I actually have this resistance, right? That said, if the traditional markets don't play along, I don't see that playing out, right? So yeah, that's my stance on Bitcoin. Low time frame looks much better than the higher time frames. Whenever they kind of collide and you have a high time frame weakness into low time frame strength, what oftentimes happens is chop, right? So we could easily chop between 50 and 60K here for a while until either like the high time frames or the low time frames kind of switch so that they align again. So yeah, that's my view on Bitcoin. Any questions to that? Anything that you guys want to have answered? Wow, I finally made it to a live session. Yeah, I've been late in the last few, I think 2 or 3 instances of the stream. I hate being late, but I mean, I don't know, like my life's been a meme lately. Not in a bad way, but just like generally. Lol, SC streaming right now too on Ted's channel. Hope one day you guys make up. I don't think so. There's people I like and there's people I dislike, and there's pretty much, I don't know, we just disagree on everything. Be it how to treat other people, how to treat women, it's just, yeah, whatever. I don't need to go into it, but it's not a person that I want to hang around with. So you think bull run's over? No, not necessarily. The bull run could keep on going. We could range in here and then push further up, right? The immediate bull run, I think, is over, yeah. But that could change real quickly if we reclaim 60K. So basically how my thinking goes, right? And people always want to know, okay, is the top in or not, right? But my thinking goes, okay, as long as we don't go back above here, the more likely target is down here or down here, right? And then once we're there, maybe my mind changes, like, and I think, okay, the most likely target now, like, let's say this does something like this. The most likely target is up here now. And those are all trades that you can take, right? You can take a trade from 60K to 40K. You can take a trade from 40K to 50K. And if it breaks 50K, maybe higher, right? But for me, it's not as clear cut as, okay, I can 100% guarantee that the bull market's over or not, because that doesn't really matter too much. I see that we've put in like a formation that I consider bearish, so I'm not positioned in Bitcoin. If we invalidate that kind of setup, that bearish setup, then I'm more than happy to put on a position again. It's basically just you trade this from one support to the other, or like from one support to resistance, or from one resistance to the other. You don't have to just like figure out, okay, is the bull market over or not? And especially in crypto, when the Bitcoin bull market is over, that doesn't have to mean everything else is over as well. So what I'm saying is I see weakness, and if you like shorted 60K, some people took like a short when I said I'd be selling. I mean, it's a decent short still, I think, like with a stop loss above 65, 66, Jesus, going like targeting down here is still a really good trade, right? Doesn't have to mean like, I think this is like pretty much a 50-50, but you can see that the distance to the target is much like larger than the distance to the stop loss. And I think the probability of it playing out are 50-50. So like that's a pretty decent trade in my book. But I'm not taking it. I'm not taking short trades anymore. Or at least like not when they're not glaringly obvious and supported by a narrative. When exit all markets, I hope we're gonna get like a blow off on ETH for that to happen. You reckon 30K holds if we test the low range again? 30K, I mean, I don't want to talk about 30K. Like, I think if this breaks down, I think we're gonna get a sizable bounce from 42. And then either we do like a head and shoulders meme, and then we're fucked, or we do this and then go up and then it's bull market back on again. That's kind of my gut feeling on this, but I'd be more than happy if this just went up, because ETH, and I'm going to talk about my ETH position, is going to fight an uphill battle if this starts crashing down, and it's going to be a battle that it cannot win. So it's like, for me, like for my positions, the best case scenario is either for Bitcoin to just go up or for Bitcoin to range in here. Those two are fine for me. I feel like it's more likely to go down than both of those. But even if it goes down, I could see ETH outperform. That's just late cycle things, right? Whenever crypto, or like in general, like Bitcoin has run hot for a while, you get altcoins start outperforming when Bitcoin's struggling, and that usually means we're in the late stages of the cycle. But we could just put in another consolidation like this one, right? Where we just like crash a little bit, go sideways, go back up. That would kind of reset things again. But right now, that's kind of my view. I think late cycle things, ETH is running. I could see ETH BTC go up enough to make up for Bitcoin weakness. That's why I'm positioned. And with regards to ETH BTC, We talked about this actually. My original target, and I'll pull this kind of my drawing back on in a second. My original target was 0.085 or 0.084. That was basically hit yesterday. It'd be hilarious if that was the top. That was kind of like, I put on my position, I wanted to take it off at 0.084. I just hoped that ETH/USD would be higher, and it didn't go as high as I hoped, so didn't get to sell my ETH. And in general, the move up was so slow that I don't mind giving it a little bit more room to go, given like whenever you have a move like this, and we've talked about this on the show as well, you usually get a pretty sizable explosion to the upside, as you can see here, right? You go like this, and at some point it accelerates, and I hope that this is going to end up the same way. But yeah, it could obviously be like not selling into the most obvious resistance ever, biting me in the ass. Could see that. Let me actually draw it. Like, I think in general this is the most likely, this kind of movement, as in a breakout of resistance that gets like kind of a sideways movement, and in the end a failure, just from like a cycle standpoint. But I'm just willing to trade it into resistance and hope it's going to expand to the upside. But yeah, that's just kind of my view on ETH. There's not really that much to it. It's just a range play. And if you're a careful trader, I think like selling yesterday was pretty much the move. Or like pretty much today, earlier today, right? Almost hit the level. That's like almost always good enough. Whenever you're close to a level like this, right, and you like the market starts struggling, you don't need to wait for the level to be filled. You can just sell beforehand, because I mean the level, like there's no difference between 0.0834 and 0.084, right? If you've taken this from range low to range high, you don't really give a shit about 0.5% or something. So yeah, this might be a dumb question, but if you take a short position with Bitcoin as collateral, you would accumulate more Bitcoin, but the instrument being accumulated is losing USD value. I'm missing something? No, you're not. That's how it works. That's why, like, if you denominate it in Bitcoin, right? Basically, if you're trading on BitMEX or whatever, right? If you denominate it in Bitcoin and you short, like you have your Bitcoin, right? This is your nice Bitcoin, and you short, you're on that exchange and you short with 1x leverage, you're basically in stable coins, right? You transform your USD in stables, which basically just means you have $10,000. Let's say Bitcoin is at 10,000 and you have 10,000, like you have one Bitcoin, right? So what you do, you have like your Bitcoin on an exchange and you don't want to have it anymore. Like you don't want to be exposed to Bitcoin anymore. So you just sell 10,000 USD, like you open a 10,000 USD short basically. And if Bitcoin drops by 50%, the short is going to net you 5,000, but your Bitcoin, your one Bitcoin, dropped from 10,000 to 5,000. So you're still at 10,000. Your short made you 5K. You still have your Bitcoin, which is worth now 5K, which means that you didn't gain or lose anything. If you're on an exchange that basically denominates in Bitcoin, if you're trying to short, and if you're trying to make money by shorting, you basically have to go above 1x short, or you obviously like just take advantage of like up down moves, right? So you can 1x short, rebuy, sell again, rebuy, blah blah blah. But yeah, your kind of winnings go down as well, and your collateral goes down, pretty much everything. But usually like the short that you put on is denominated in USD. So 10,000, like for example, if you're trading on BitMEX, 10,000, if you're like shorting 10,000 contracts, you're shorting like 10,000 USD. And you get paid out in Bitcoin. So you get paid out more Bitcoin the further price goes down, blah, blah, blah. Like if you want to look into it, you definitely should. Like BitMEX, for example, has excellent documentation. FTX has pretty good ones as well. But barely anyone trades Bitcoin dominated anymore. So I don't want to talk about it too long. SC is Suzu? No, that's wrong. Trader SC, that's very different. I like Suzu a lot in comparison to the other one. Trader C has 10 years trading experience, big trader, also straightforward guy. Yeah, I mean, I don't really give a shit how good of a trader you are, right? Like, at the end of the day, I have no, like, I don't see his account size. I don't see his trades. Anyone can look good on Twitter, right? Including myself. Like, I can make myself look really, really good or really, really shitty depending on what I tweet, right? So you shouldn't trust anyone on Twitter in general, right? You should just kind of try to learn how they do things. But the thing that you can kind of see is when they do stuff that is unethical. And if I see people do stuff that is unethical, I'm just not going to be in contact with them. No matter whether they applaud themselves to be the best trader on the planet or not, I don't really care, right? It doesn't help me that they're kind of like the god of the universe. I just, like, if I see like people being exploited, I call it out. It's just how it is. So yeah. But enough of that topic. It's just it's tiresome. So yeah. Would you sell your ETH for Bitcoin once you exit or sell to USD? I'm gonna sell to USD. Very, very likely. I don't really see a world in which, I mean, unless you're into the super cycle kind of camp, I don't see a world in which ETH mega rallies and then Bitcoin does well afterwards. That would be the super cycle kind of trade, and that would be a ballsy one to take. I'm just not that ballsy. I look at the SPX again. Yeah, I mean, it's just rough, right? And this is gonna spill over. So, like, looking at the title of the video, the S&P, like any weakness on the S&P is always gonna spill over in crypto. It's just a question of how hard can crypto hold up, right? And so far, it's been holding up pretty well. That doesn't have to mean anything though, like the low time frames. What oftentimes happens is that the S&P goes up, crypto kind of holds steady, and then you would say, okay, crypto is pretty weak in comparison, and then it slingshots up further, or the opposite, right? So it's not necessarily about the 5-minute chart being better or worse. It's about like a serious trend, right? There's like basically, if you look at this kind of price action in here, this entire thing, in comparison to this, the S&P was much more constructive during this period. Obviously still bearish, but much more constructive. So it's not necessarily on the 5-minute or whatever. And for the guy that asked if I can do any TA on this, I mean, there's not really much use to it. You have like weekly support coming up. If that fails, starts looking really ugly, and then you can basically, like, if this fails and goes down, it's probably gonna bounce because it's the S&P. It's probably gonna bounce there, and then you can make a play on the long side maybe. But it's like TA is mostly a meme for these kind of markets. The only reason why it works so well in crypto is because like there's no real fundamental reason for it to go up or down much besides like macro stuff. And then you have a bunch of people looking at the same thing. Like no one really understands how any of this should be valued. So they kind of cling to the best thing, and that's TA to value it. And yeah, you can TA this, and I mean, there's been like a few periods when like the market goes completely out of whack on the traditionals, that it's actually nice to just use TA for the traditional market. But in general, I think it's mostly a meme. Only reason why it works so well in crypto is, like I said, bunch of degenerates have no idea about markets and they just trade because they want to trade, and then they use the best tool available. And in crypto, that's TA most of the time. Why is everybody fighting on CT? Don't understand. Why just not support each other? I mean, that makes no sense whatsoever. Like if you see a robbery on the street, right? And then you're like, hey dude, can I help you like take this guy's money because he's resisting? Like what the fuck? This makes no sense. Like when you call out people for shady behavior, like why would the response be why not be nice to each other? Like I don't get it. But then again, like I'm not a guy that wants to be involved in drama all the time, so I usually stay clear. But yeah, let's legitimately keep that topic away. I don't want to ruin the video or like in general the mood, because I'm gonna get angry the longer we talk about it. So yeah, that's like my take on the S&P. You don't need to like do too much on it. And yeah, like I said, the weakness spilling over looks kind of shitty. And that's the thing, right? The lower time frames look pretty decent. And I mean, it's not bad on the daily, but that doesn't really matter if the macro doesn't allow it. So what you basically have to watch out for is, okay, how is the macro situation of all markets? Because we're big enough that does matter now. And then is the backdrop for crypto bullish or bearish, right? And the easiest way to do it is basically just look at the S&P. If that just is an up-only mode, the backdrop for crypto is bullish. If that isn't the case, we've had that basically once. People were like, okay, if the S&P nukes, crypto is going to be a hedge, and then crypto basically went, or like at least Bitcoin almost went to zero that day. So yeah, if you're like heading into bear market on the traditional markets, which I'm not really in the camp of, but if we do it, don't expect to be safe in crypto, because that's not going to happen. So yeah, with regards to ETH, like I talked about the ETH BTC chart for a bit. Let's talk about the ETH USD chart. This is a pretty nice retest, pretty strong reaction. That said, we've had this discussion before. When you have a pattern breakout, you don't want to see it retest, right? You want to see the strongest markets don't retest. The strongest markets just go up. You can see retests, like you can see the retest here, right? You basically have a strong breakout, and then you have retest-ish, and on log it doesn't look as brutal. And then you have retest, and then you bounce, and it took a shitload of time to actually get off of that support. But this retest was already like getting me a little bit worried. This one has me more. I don't like it when the market keeps on giving perfect retests. I usually expect those to get wiped at some point. So I think at some point this cycle, we're going to go and take out these lows at 1.7K for ETH, which is right now 60% away. If ETH goes higher, right, which I could see, I actually hope so, because I'm still in like a position for ETH. But let's say ETH goes to 7K, that would be our typical kind of bear market shakeout, every 80% down kind of move. That would fuck over pretty much anyone, right? But in general, I don't like the perfect retests. I'm still positioned because ETH BTC looks pretty strong. But I'm ready to jump out at any kind of point. And my invalidation is basically get back below 4K. And I think in general, even if it's not on a close, if you get back below 4K, I'm going to be out. If it's not just a straight panic wick that goes back up. Like, you're not going to see me hold below 4K too long. But until then, happy to be exposed, happy to take some kind of gains. I mean, the last few days have been pretty nice on ETH. Rallied from, this is weekly support, right? Straight up. And yeah, not looking too bad on the low time frames. I actually like this kind of pattern a lot. We wrote about it in the newsletter. Let's actually use this. So you have resistance here, you had resistance here, right? You can draw a box, you can draw whatever you want to, but this entire area basically was resistance. But whenever you have a resistance that's like, let's say you go up to resistance and you fail, right? And then you go up immediately again. That is usually, at least in crypto, and you can see how this worked out. That is usually in crypto something that breaks to the upside eventually, either by doing this, maybe pulls back lower. But in general, like whenever you get these massive retraces from like a resistance and that gets immediately tested again, like in this case, you usually break them at some point. And in this case, pretty violent, pretty nice move from 4K to 4.8K. That's a 20% move right there, right? Not too shabby. And right now, like double tops, we've had this before. Double top, like this doesn't look bad, right? I'm not too bearish on ETH. Otherwise, I wouldn't have the position that I have. But I'm willing to like get out, right? Like if we get back here, I think this would basically be another one of these deviations that I talked about with Bitcoin. That would look extremely bad, and then we either go to range midpoint or to the range low. So bullish for now, and if PTC doesn't look bad, I mean it hit resistance. I just hope that resistance gets torched, and if USD there's no real resistance left. This depends more on the macro situation than anything else. So yeah, that's the two most important ones. Any questions about ETH or Bitcoin? I'd gladly answer them. What USD target do you have on ETH blow off? I mean, I'm gonna be selling into like 6K. I could see it go to 7 or 8, but like legitimately, we're so late in the cycle that I don't give a shit about selling even a 2x too early, right? Like if this goes to 6K and I sell 6K and it goes to 12K immediately after, I mean, I'm gonna be sad on like as a trader, but I'm almost certain that we're gonna trade way below 6K at that point. The last 2x is one that I don't need to capture. I don't really give a shit, and I don't think we're heading for 12K on ETH. But there's just like some movements that you don't want to catch. It takes some time to kind of get out of the market, get your mindset ready. And I think we're close enough that I'm not willing to take the last big move. This is already me overextending myself. Because like I said, I think we're very, very late in the cycle. Doesn't really make much sense to open new positions. It's just like basically capturing the biggest piece of the pie. That is the blow off in crypto. That's kind of my view. And I could be completely wrong on that. It's just like ETH rally from $80 to 4,000, almost 5,000. At some point, I'm just like, okay, enough is enough. And for me, the last few, like another 1,000 up or something, would be more than plenty. And then I can still redeploy, right? It's not like the moment I sell ETH, I can never get back in. If I get a good setup, I'm going to buy again and sell again. It's just how it is. But right now, I'm still long. I'm hoping for higher. I am starting to get nervous again. But that's fine. Given that I've de-risked a lot on Bitcoin, and that seems to be basically has been the resistance to de-risk, I don't really mind holding ETH for a little bit longer. It's just basically like taking a little bit of profit. So yeah. will you rotate in smaller caps after selling ETH? Very good question. My plan is, right, if the market doesn't just disappear here, which I don't hope it does, because fucking hell would suck for ETH. Let's say ETH goes to 6K, right? I think DeFi against ETH is gonna shit the bed even harder. And what I'm basically gonna do is, like, I'm gonna pull out 3/4 roughly of my position in ETH and take 1/4 and put it into like promising DeFi projects. I think that those have kind of bled enough. And the moment ETH starts topping, I think they can get at least some rotation going. So yeah, that's the plan. But I'm not trying to do this, basically. You have like a small position, you make a winner, you have a bigger position, you reinvest all of that. Like, this is how you play bull markets, right? And this is how you're gonna see everyone. Like, when you see people be on talk shows or like on podcasts or whatever that have made it in like from 0 to hero in a year or two, what they basically do is they start out with very little. They hit lucky or by skill, doesn't really matter, right? And then they have a bigger position, and then they roll that entire position into the next position, and then you snowball this up, right? And most people that do this kind of thing, they can never stop, right? Because the thing is, if you do this and the market does something like this, moves up, right? You're gonna get like hit by these small pullbacks, but it's not gonna be big. And then your position size is gonna grow larger and larger and larger. And you guys have probably gone through it in your trading career, because almost everyone has just been a bull market. The moment this happens, right? This position size, right? If you lose, if you get like a drawdown of 40% in this position size, and if you're leveraged on top of it, you take a massive haircut, and then you suddenly jump not like one step back. What happens is you basically jump back like down here again. And then you're like in this state again, where like your bankroll is relatively small, and you're like, fucking hell, I had so much. I could have just cashed this out or cashed some of it out and had a good life. This is basically the story. I've heard it a million times now. What I'm gonna do, and I'm just talking out of the perspective of a person that trades like this, is I'm just gonna do this again. And once I'm at this point, I'm gonna cash something out. And you can imagine how that goes, right? Because the market just did this, just broke market structure. And maybe they managed to do this step, right? Because market bounces a little. And maybe they do even the second one because the market bounces even a little bit higher. And then before they get back to that point, it just fucking dumps again. And then their entire account is gone. And they're wondering how they managed to turn nothing into a shit node into nothing again. And that is basically a snowball way of trading. And it works really well in bull markets. So I don't want to say it's like the worst idea to be trading like that. It's just what you should be doing instead is once you actually start seeing signs for the market slowing down, what you basically do is you snowball, and it's still a snowball thing. And then at some point you're like, okay, this market is like, holy shit, this market is insane. And then you make gains, and you just roll those gains. You keep the position size relatively similar. And then you take those gains and take them out of the market and do something else with them. And then if the market crashes and you take a big hit, it's not really about like let's say you do this, right? And you put out a considerable amount of money during like those few trades, and then you go back to this position size, you're in a much more comfortable situation because your position size is smaller again. And it might be like as small as the other guy that just kept on increasing his size, right? But the thing is, your mental game is going to be on point because you know that, okay, I put some money away. I'm going to be fine no matter what happens. And then you can keep on going and you can recover easier. In my experience anyway, I've seen a bunch of people lose it all in the space. I've seen a bunch of people make it big. And the people that make it big, they know when enough is enough. And the people that don't know when enough is enough, they run it up to 1 million, 10 million, 50 million, and then they keep on going and never stop. And that's fine, right? It's just you have to kind of have at least some money that you just pull out of the market. Not necessarily for any trading related issues, but for your mental game. Because if you start with $2,000 and run it up to $1 million and then go back to $2,000, that's gonna kill you for the rest of your life. Yeah, I've seen people do it. I mean, I still see people do it. It's heartbreaking. So I can just recommend be at least a little bit on the cautious side of things. Not necessarily like taking it all out of the market. I'm not even like, you can keep 90% in the market. I don't really give a shit. I don't really care like too much about what other people do with their money. But I mean, I don't want to see anyone complain. Because it's at the end of the day, it's your fault and you're responsible for whatever you do, right? And if you just take out 10%, be my guest, right? And then you have 10% to fall back on. That can be a significant sum of money during a bear market. So yeah, that's just like a quick kind of 2018 PTSD or whatever kind of moment of mine. We could keep on going up forever, right? It's just, I like to talk about that from time to time because, I mean, if you know what's going on inside your head, right, it's easier to kind of cope with it. Even if you're trading like that, like if you know that that's the way you trade, it's much, much better than like just being in a position where you just do it by default and then you have no idea what you're actually doing. So yeah. Don, what do you think is the best way to get over bear market PTSD? Just, I mean, what you basically do, like, I mean, the PTSD stuff, right? What people tend to kind of do, and for example, I've had so many arguments with people because I've been saying Bitcoin isn't really bullish right now, right? And then I've been saying I'm holding ETH. And then people came to me and were like, okay, dude, what the fuck are you doing? If Bitcoin goes down, ETH's going to go down as well, right? And ETH is basically back at all-time high again, and Bitcoin is clearly not, right? So what you just do to get over bear market PTSD is you just put some money in the market. You don't pull out everything. Even if you think that this market is cooked, right? Like, for example, for me, right now, I think Bitcoin looks kind of shit. And there's a good chance that, I mean, we're going to go to mid-range. I'm still exposed to the market via ETH, right? Because I don't want to be in the position that like everything runs away from me and I have to make hard decisions. I want to make easy decisions, right? For example, right now, I want to sit there and if Bitcoin goes up, I want to be sitting there being like, okay, even if it goes up, I don't have to FOMO into it because I have no position because I'm actually exposed to crypto via ETH, right? If ETH goes down, I want to know exactly where my invalidation is to kind of get out and where my invalidation is to get back in, right? I want to make those easy decisions. I don't want to make the tough ones. And the tough one is basically you sold everything because you think, like, let's say you sold everything here because you think the market's overheated. Now it's at 4.6K. You have no invalidation to get back in or out or like whatever. And now you're sitting there and you have to make a shit decision because at that point in time, there is only shit positions. So I kind of try to think about, okay, how can I kind of frame this market in a way that makes deciding on what to do easy for me? And most of the time that's like not fully exiting or entering. And if you have bull market PTSD or like 2018 bear market PTSD, just put some money in a coin that you think has a good setup, no matter whether you think like Bitcoin goes to zero or not, and see how that setup plays out. And if it plays out well, just take that money and let it be like a smaller part of your portfolio. Doesn't really matter, right? And then take that win and roll it into something else. And you have your main portfolio here, which is hidden away because you have PTSD, and then you have your smaller portfolio that you just trade normally. And at some point you either lose the PTSD or like your portfolio, your smaller one, just grows into like a decent size where you have to make again the decision, okay, do you want to take some out or not, blah blah blah. But yeah, the best way to kind of get over PTSD is just confront yourself with the market. So look for a good setup, take it, and if it goes to shit, maybe you're right about your PTSD, and if the good setup plays out, maybe you're wrong. I like the video, says Chinch99. Yeah, I mean, if you like the video, like the video. I would appreciate it. S&P dumping big now? Let me see. Nah, brother, this ain't it. It's not a big dump. But yeah, you can see how this looks so similar, even on the small time frames, right? Maybe things won't be like 17 or 13 again. Who knows? They will not be. Like, it's never a clean copy. It's just similar. Markets behave in a similar way. But they're never carbon copies of each other. Would you say it would make sense to pull out from altcoins now with ETH BTC breaking out? It seems the good part is coming. I mean, I'm sitting in ETH BTC because I think it's the brain dead play right now. Like I said, the only real problem is that we basically hit my target. I talked about this forever, right? I said, if you wanna like be involved in this, buy 0.055, sell this, and be done with it, right? Now we hit my target and I'm greedy, right? So I could see myself eat shit on this. But in general, like, should you pull out of altcoins? I don't know. I'm not. I'm in ETH. I'm not really holding many other altcoins. I have some NFTs. I have ETH, and I have one or two other positions, but they're really small. And that's it, right? ETH's just the brain dead easy position, because if it starts closing below here, I'm probably just gonna sell the ETH that I have. The NFTs that I do have, I cannot sell. Still too illiquid. And then just hope that if it goes back up, I make enough on the NFTs. But that's like a shitty bet, because NFTs aren't really going up with ETH or down with ETH, just a different market. So yeah, it basically is up to you what you do. But right now, like, I don't mind to look at on ETH. This is basically all this weakness that we've had on Bitcoin and ETH is basically traditional market focused. So if you think that's gonna head into another breakdown, then you should probably sell some. Yeah. If you don't think so, then the setups are still fine, right? I mean, ETH setup is basically 4K holds, and we're bullish until we hit resistances into 6 or 7 or 8K. Round numbers are pretty good resistances in general. Multiples of, like, for example, if you go to 8K, like 4K was pretty decent resistance, 8K would be as well. That kind of stuff, right? But the setup still stands, and I'm just sticking with the setup. Are you trying to protect your wealth or make your wealth? Good question. I mean, I'm at the point where, like, it's definitely not necessarily to, like, I'm not in the mode where I'm like, okay, I need to 100x my entire portfolio as soon as possible. That's not my, I mean, I'd be happy if that happened, but that's not my goal anymore, right? My goal has been for the last 2 years, basically. I mean, the bear market was pretty decent to me. Didn't get hit as hard as other people did. So my goal has been to kind of make sure that my life's basically for, like, that I'm kind of secured for the rest of my life and I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. And that's the way I want to invest. I'm not in the position where I need my portfolio to 100x anymore. So yeah, good question. And this is something that you have to figure out yourself, right? Back in the day, I had the pedal to the metal during most of the 16 to 70 bull market. And I was degening it up, and I wouldn't do that anymore. But then again, I sold early on a lot of altcoins in 17. basically the exact same thing that I told you earlier about like selling before the last 2x. The entire, like I sold and the entire altcoin market did a 2x after. And then it went down 95%. And I was comfortable with that. I didn't really mind. I don't need to take the last 2x. So in a sense, I'm still trading a little bit similar, but just with less risk. I don't need to leverage my positions anymore, like I used to. I noticed you don't seem interested in small caps. Is it because of liquidity or position size? It's because I can't share them. Like I'd never share small cap because I could easily pump and dump them if I wanted to. Anything that I can pump and dump, even though I would never do it, anything that I can pump and dump, I'm not going to mention. It's just how it is. Any chart that I would have like a major impact on, if I tweeted about it, I'm not going to tweet. Anything, like I'm not going to talk about it. I might build a position, and you can, like, even if you can't put in full size, you can still trade small caps. But I'm just never gonna be involved in any of that. I'm just like, why? I don't need other people to buy my bags. I can just trade for myself. So yeah, it's just like, it seems pretty straightforward to me, right? I don't need to market manipulate or any of that sort. So yeah, that's that. How do you spend your money? I don't really. Besides like vacations, like I'm not the kind of guy that goes to strip clubs or any of the sort and throws away money. Not my kind of world. I live a pretty modest life and I don't really need most of the luxury stuff. And never really wanted that either. Like that wasn't the goal for me. How small has a project to be that you could pump and dump it? I think anything below 50, like the top 50 market caps, I could easily pump and dump if I wanted to. So yeah, that's that. I think that's enough about those. The other altcoins, we don't even need to talk about. ADA has been taking a huge shit. Most altcoins have been taking a huge shit. And you don't, like, at this point, you don't even need to look at the BTC ratios because, I mean, you can just look at the ETH ratios, right? If you're chilling in EOS, I mean, fucking hell, right? You can chart all of this against ETH because ETH's just the easy trade, right? This is Dogecoin, for example. Had like massive outperformance, now returning back to the mean, dumping heavily. And that's kind of like what I'm doing right now, basically, because I have an ETH position. And the only way that I would get rid of the ETH position is if there was something that looked better than ETH did. And right now there's barely anything and ETH is the most liquid. But if I see like an ETH chart that I find really, really bullish, I wouldn't have a problem exchanging. But right now that's not the case. And then you can, I mean, look at DeFi stuff that like completely and utterly destroyed. I drew these months and months ago on the live stream, basically pointing out like this pattern. And no matter how chanked it is on all of them, it's kind of been playing out, right? This shoulder has been acting as resistance on Aave. It's acting as resistance on Uni. It's acting as resistance on Sushi. All of these are pretty damn wrecked. And I hope, and this is against USD, right? If you chart them against ETH, this is how they look, right? And for me, they're starting to capitulate, I think. The only problem is that most of the DeFi stuff is pretty much unusable while fees are so high. And I know like there's ways around it, blah, blah, blah. Like the normie users don't really give a shit, right? You need to get the normies to buy the bags, or at least have the promise of them buying the bag at some point. Because how this world works, this crypto world, right? You have a coin, it's small, it's whatever. People look at it and they're like, okay, smart people anyway, are like, okay, who can I sell this to for a higher price? And then you get like the big players come in and they buy it up and it goes to a higher price. And then traders see this and it's at a higher price. And they're like, okay, this thing has a narrative that I can sell, or like that is going to be sold to retail. So I can sell it to a higher price to retail, right? This is how this market plays. And if this link or like this link doesn't exist because of fees or whatever, because traders aren't dumb, right? Traders are not gonna buy the bags of bigger players in the game when they know that they can't sell it to anyone else because no one else is using it. And the same thing is true, obviously, for the bigger players, right? Why the fuck would they be buying if they cannot sell it to traders, right? Or traders and retail? If that link isn't gonna be there, no one's gonna buy it, right? So the ETH fees kind of prohibit a lot of this stuff from going up. So if ETH tops, I hope that we may be seeing like some reduction in fees. Pretty unlikely, but if the fees go down and ETH tops and ETH goes higher from here, obviously, like if ETH just goes lower from here, I'm not going to rotate into DeFi. But if all of that happens, and it's a lot of ifs, I'm gonna be happy to rotate some of the ETH profits I make into DeFi. Doesn't really matter how the chart looks. Then again, like the charts look terrible. And I know that a lot of funds still have deep bags with DeFi stuff that they just cannot sell, or at least cannot sell quickly. So I gotta be careful on that front. Kind of looks like 2018 to me. On these, but I think if ETH tops, there could be a dead cat in store for us. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. There's not that much to do, given that the strongest coin, in my opinion, with the best liquidity is ETH. If that dumps, everything else is gonna dump as well. Bitcoin, like I said, doesn't look too strong in my opinion. And once ETH is done rallying, if it does rally at all, I think we can see rotations out of ETH into even shittier coins. And I'm going to try to at least do some of that, but not with much money. Hope that makes sense. Hope this stream has been helpful. Let me see if I can answer a few questions before I go. So are you CryptoCred? I'm watching your tutorials and they are extremely good and I'm learning from it. Thanks. No, I'm not CryptoCred. But CryptoCred is a good friend of mine and co-owner of this channel. So if you come back next Monday, it's going to be CryptoCred. Is ETH your bigger bag? I mean, I don't have much Bitcoin left. I sold that, like I said, at 60. Or like around 60, basically 59 something. DeFi is also under some SEC pressure. Yep, there's a lot of stuff that makes DeFi a bad play. I just think it's dumped so much that, like, let's say the ETH rallies harder and just like puts in like something like this. Like, let's say ETH goes to 6-7K, I could still see SNX be down at $7. And then I could see a dead cat bounce to like 11 and then bear market. And that kind of play, I don't really mind to do with like a smaller part of my portfolio. What triggered you to sell your Bitcoin? That's pretty straightforward. I talked about it earlier. It's this range thing that I keep talking about. You have a range, this is the best buy setup, right? Range fake out to the downside and then strength into the range. That's like one of the best buy setups that I have. You look at this, what is this exactly? It's the exact opposite, right? You have a range breakout, You come back into it, and then it's just pretty straightforward, right? So one of my favorite bullish setups is just playing out in reverse, and that made me sell. Hope that makes sense. I mean, for me, it makes like it's the same thing. So are you pulling your gains in USDT or straight to bank account? Mixture of all of it. Not just USDT, also USDC, all of the stables. Some of the bank accounts. Yep. Yikes, S&P. Yeah, man. This rough. So is like, I mean, it's just how it is, right? So yeah, that's it. I think we've talked enough. I hope this helped. Big shout out before I go to the sponsor of the show, which is still FTX, formerly known as Blockfolio. You should definitely check them out if you want to do anything crypto related on your mobile phone or otherwise, really. They have good lending rates. They have a bunch of stuff that is really interesting. And on top of that, they support the show. So yeah, I appreciate their support. Their links are in the description. Also appreciate you guys coming by and kind of suffering through my 1 hour delays from time to time. Sorry about that. Not much I could do about it today. But yeah, I'll try to be more punctual from now on. Love you guys. See you on Friday for either like a casual kind of thing or a podcast, or I don't know. Either me, Cred, or us both will be there on Friday. So yeah, see you then. Bye bye.